Greetings, and blessings abundantly. We are back with another episode of the Abundance Universe podcast. Today, I'm very, very excited to introduce my guest. He is a credit specialist, also has passed as a creative, but he and I met. He's also a really dope entrepreneur. He and I met at an entrepreneur event, and we're going to talk about that. But I want everybody to give a warm, abundant welcome to my good friend, Mr. Ryan Mitchell. Ryan, welcome to the podcast, brother. How you feeling today?
Appreciate the intro. I'm feeling fantastic. I'm ready to win the day. Got this podcast and I got a networking event I'm going to later. So it's gonna be a great day, man.
I love it. I love it. So you and I met at a Ty Lopez event. For anybody that doesn't know, make sure you're following Ty Lopez if you're interested in business, entrepreneurship, success, health, wellness. He says health, wealth, love, and happiness. That's what he talks about. And he's a huge inspiration to me, and I'm sure Ryan as well. And was at this networking event out here in LA. And it was a few days. Ryan and I really connected, and I found out what he did. And I was intrigued because it's something that not a lot of people talk about. Ryan is an entrepreneur of many different forms. He's had a really amazing life that led him up to where he is. But through all of his learnings, he told me the thing that he's focused on right now and that he helps people with that creates the most success is credit. And, I was really excited because a lot of people don't talk about credit, and he does. So wanted to bring Ryan here today to just introduce himself and talk to the Abundance Universe audience about how he got to where he is from where he began, and also how this whole credit thing works. So there's that. Now, Ryan, let's tell the folks kind of just a quick intro of who you are at your core, where you're from, and how you got to where you are. And then, I want to talk about the why of why you do what you do. But let's just start with an intro of where you're from and how you got started doing what you're doing.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, my name is Ryan Mitchell. My Instagram name, my personal brand is Rhino Reels. Rhino is actually a nickname from when I was little. And then, as we were talking about before the podcast, I used to shoot music videos. So I came up with Rhino Reels. It was my videography brand, but I just stuck with it because they actually Instagram or introduced Instagram Reels. And I also like to pride myself as a person who always keeps it real. So there's a little like kind of
That part.
background on what Rhino Reels is. But yeah, I was born and raised in Southern Indiana, a city called Evansville, and was always interested in entrepreneurship, interested in running my own business, interested in creating more abundance of wealth. My parents, I saw them uh, we weren't extremely lower class, but a lot of decisions were always based on whether or not we had the funds available for it, or whether or not my parents could take off work to go do certain things. And so I realized that there was more to life than that, and there's more available to that. And so I had strived to want to do that. And I think another thing that helped drive me towards entrepreneurship was playing video games as a kid. I played this computer game. It was called like Roller Coaster Tycoon, and you would make money on the amusement park and reinvest it back into the park and make more money. There's like a whole category of computer games called upgrade games. And I always like those because you could reinvest back into yourself to get into higher leverage opportunities. So that those type of things like excited me and wanted me to do more. And really on how I got to where I'm at now, I realized that there's power in proximity. There's power in being close to the people that you want to be more like. And I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. I just knew I wanted to make a lot of money. And I knew there was a lot more wealthy people in LA, in Orange County, than in Indiana. Um, so I moved out here just over 2 years ago, packed up my life in my car, and drove out to LA with no plan, no job, no real connections. I had a couple friends from Indiana that lived out here, but Um, was just trying to figure it out, man. And I had one credit card. It was an American Express Gold card, which I didn't know how bad I messed up that relationship until, now. But I maxed it out. It went to collections. I was broke. My credit score dropped 200 points, and I waited until I had a negative bank account before I finally got a job because I was trying to do other side hustles, other businesses. And basically I met this gentleman at the gym. I was working front desk at a gym. I was like, I'm gonna find the nicest gym in my area so I can be around people with money. That was my idea, my
Smart.
framework. Uh, because it ties back to proximity, right?
Power of proximity. They say that you are always going to be the average of your five best friends, the people you spend the most time around, because we acquiesce to the habits and behaviors of whoever we're around. So I'm glad that you had that thinking about it. And I want people to really take note there. If you're going to do something, go to the top. He said, I'm going to work at a gym, but I'm going to work at the top gyms, the best gyms, so that I can meet the top people and the best types of people that appreciate that environment. So that's a major key. And you got to do that no matter what field or area or career you in. Go to the top. Rhino, back to
Yeah.
you.
I didn't want to work at a Planet Fitness. I wanted to
Straight
work
up.
at someone was paying 100 a month for the gym membership. I'm like, I want to be
Yes.
around those type of people.
Yes, because you always have a choice. So I'm so
Exactly.
grateful that you thinking like that. And that's why you're successful. But yeah.
I appreciate that. And so I just so happened to meet this gentleman at the gym who introduced me to someone that repaired his credit. So um, we got the collection removed from my credit report, and my score went up 200 points. Again, so it went from like a low 500s to like a high 700s, or like mid 700s. And that's when I saw there was a huge opportunity there. Um, and I didn't think too much of it. Like I had been interested in credit, but a friend of mine from Evansville, Indiana, reached out to me and asked if I needed help with my credit. I'm like, no, I actually just got it prepared. But he introduced me to his mentor who helped him start up his own credit repair business. And so I'm also a person that very much believes in mentorship. It's a shortcut to proximity. There's a reason that me and you got connected because we paid for proximity to get to this event. And if we didn't do that, then we might have not got connected along with all the other people that we met at that event. Um, and so basically I took the risk on myself and I invested into mentorship and learned from someone who had been doing this for a few years and had made over $1 million in the credit space and started up my own company because it checked all the boxes for me as far as what I wanted. I could work virtually. I can impact people's lives and it's scalable. I can scale this up. It's not like I have to go buy inventory and store it somewhere and like I'm moving physical products. So it checked a lot of boxes for me.
Yep.
That's in summary kind of where I came from and how I got here on the Cliff Notes
That's
version.
perfect. I like that. I like that. So you talked about a lot of different things there. The power of proximity, being around the right folks is kind of the guiding light. So looking at what you're doing now, what would you say is the most important factor of your mindset that you had to develop to really be able to transform your personal financial situation? Where were you at on the mindset side when all these things were going on? And what did you do specifically to empower your mindset to be the lender and not the borrower, as they say?
For sure. I think the most important thing on mindset is just understanding that money is numbers, and numbers move according to what you do to them, and you can always do math to understand the numbers. Before it was like, I don't know, my money comes and goes. I don't know, it just happens, and you have to set intention behind it. You have to set a plan behind it, or things are not going to happen for you. There's the same thing with credits, the same thing with business. You can't just go out and expect things to work out, expect to save money if you're not actually saving any money, if you're not doing anything. So, as far as actionable steps, I was listening to podcasts. I don't agree with Dave Ramsey on credit things for the most part, but he has a lot of solid financial advice on how to save money, how to pay off credit card debt. You can look into the snowball method, avalanche method. I mean, he recommends snowball, which I think is a great thing. Um, but the concept of paying yourself first. I got my paycheck for my job and I put 25% of it away into a savings account. And that savings was just for whatever the whatever I wanted to invest in the future, but it was just having some money set aside so I don't go spend it all.
Right. And you have the discipline to say, I'm not going to touch the savings account.
Yeah,
Right. So how do you develop the financial discipline to make sure that you have all your boundaries covered? Do you use any specific tools, planners, a spreadsheet? Do you have a process or app that you use or anything like that to help manage the finances and keep track of the numbers better?
great question. Yeah, I recommend my clients to use the Mint app, Mint. Me personally, I don't really use an app. I just kind of review my finances, see what I'm spending it on, where the money is going. But as far as the discipline, you just have to have a conversation with yourself and see what your goals are and what you're wanting to do. And people say, "Oh, I'm going to save more whenever I make more money. Oh, I'm going to start investing when I make more money." Well, habits are built through discipline. You have to have the discipline to create the habits. And right now you have your current habits of just blowing your whole paycheck. That's going to happen whenever you're making more money. I talk to people who work in the solar industry a lot. They may make 20K in 1 month, and then they might not make anything the next month because that's the nature of sales. Uh, and they may blew their whole paycheck. They didn't save, they didn't manage it. So for me personally, I worked in sales and now I'm an entrepreneur. So I like a percentage-based budget instead of a certain amount. Basically, I put aside, okay, there's going to be this much, like my monthly expenses I have on a spreadsheet. I spend this much on average at the grocery store, this much on rent, this much for gas, insurance, etc. So I kind of like put all that aside for monthly expenses, and then the rest I do percentage. So um, percentage of savings, percentage of investing, and then the rest is just like fun money because you can't. A lot of people, and I fell into this trap a lot. You want to start budgeting, and you're like, yeah, I'm gonna put all my money here, all my money here. Don't forget to have fun. Like you are human. You do need to go out and have fun. Don't just neglect like going out with your friends
Right.
or whatever you like to do with your free time. Make sure you set aside money for that as well.
How do you differentiate or determine the proportions or the percentages that you put for each of those? So how does someone decide what's the right amount to put in the fund, what's the right amount to put in the savings, what's the right amount to put into necessary expenses, maybe even
Mhm.
an emergency fund as well as the savings? Can you talk about how you make those kind of decisions, or how anybody should maybe just think about those kind of percentages when it comes to budgeting? I'm sure it's based on personal situation, but how do you think about that?
Yeah, I'll start off that I'm not a financial advisor and I don't advise people on money at
Yeah,
all.
me
So the
either, by
first
the
step
way. This is not
is,
a financial advice podcast. Thank
yeah,
you for saying that. Disclaimer. We are
you
not
should
financial advice, also not a doctor. It's not health advice. We are just some guys sharing some things that we found to work that might help you. Maybe, maybe not. We'll see. It's up
see.
to you.
I would say definitely talk to someone and make a plan on that.
Right.
But it
Talk
also
to a
depends
financial
on
professional.
what your goals are. You
Right.
know, there's people that want to retire early and they want to retire in their 40s. Okay, well, you should be heavily aggressive on your investing over your fund money. Um, I I kind of see that having a 6 months worth of living expenses emergency fund is one of the best things you can do. And me personally, I put that in. a high yield savings account because it has a higher interest rate than just your regular savings account. And it's a way that you can actually build your relationship with American Express, which is one of the best credit card ecosystems to be in. When I say build a relationship, it's just having more products of theirs. And a lot of people don't know that they have a high yield savings account. So putting money in there and letting it sit before you apply for a credit card could increase your chances of getting approved, increase the amount of limit that they give you. So one, it's not the best. It's like a 4%. There are some high yield savings that do like a 5%, a 5.5, some smaller credit unions. But for me, it's a good place to put the savings, and it also helps me with my credit goals.
That's great. I was not even aware of the American Express high yield savings account, but I'm gonna go start a couple of those up. Ace Sappington. I appreciate you
Yeah,
dropping
just
that knowledge.
a quick gem on that. So they also have a business checking account.
Nice.
So for my entrepreneurs out there, I like to help my clients not only get the best credit and best credit cards, but there's these things called bank bonuses. So banks will pay you money to use their products. So if you get the high yield savings account, which is a personal, then you're restricted from getting the bank bonus on the business checking side. So I would recommend that people get the business Amex checking first and then get the high yield savings account. Because I think the sign up bonus right now is like 400 bucks. So just by putting some money in there, making a few transactions on your American Express business debit card, then they'll give you 400 bucks just for opening the account. So if you can line up bank bonuses along with hitting your credit goals, then you can get paid in the process. And I think that's the best route to go.
That's dope. So we got some homework to do. American Express high yield business and personal savings accounts. So you touched on another important
Personal
piece.
savings, business checking. I just wanted to
Oh,
clarify.
business
It's a
checking,
business
personal
checking
savings.
account, personal high yield savings. Yep.
Thank you for that. Personal high yield savings. Is the business checking account a high yield as well? Or is that just a
No,
regular business
I don't
checking
believe
account?
so.
Okay. That's awesome. So the business checking and the personal high yield savings, but start with the business checking first. You want to build your business relationship first. Why is that important? Um, can you talk about that? Building a business credit or
That one
business
is
relationship
just
with
for the
American
bank
Express?
bonus. So me personally, I
Um,
didn't know that. I started my high yield savings on the personal side first.
okay.
So now if I were to go to open up a business checking, I don't qualify for that bank bonus. The
Mm,
only way to get the bonus is if you start there, and then you can get the high yield savings account later. So
perfect.
I was just giving that example.
Perfect.
But
I'm
in
glad you did.
general,
I'm glad you
yeah,
did
in
because now we
general, no
can
matter
we can
what
move
bank you're
forward with.
at, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
Go ahead.
In general, no matter what bank you're at, it's great to have a relationship with them first before you start asking for their products. You want to date them before you marry them. You want to have a checking account, a savings account. If they have other products, like maybe a high yield savings, maybe you put some money into one of their investment accounts. Um, every single thing that a bank offers you is a product. A checking account is a product. A savings account is a product. And that gives them more data points on you. We live in a data-driven society right now. Everybody's dying to get your data. And whenever you apply for a credit card or a loan or any sort of product, they're going to push your application through a machine. There's not a human looking at that. It's an automatic decision. And the more info they have on you, the more products you have with them, the more they like you, the more they want to approve you, the higher limits. So before I applied for this Chase Sapphire Reserve card here, which is a personal card, I had a personal checking and savings and a business checking and savings to build the relationship with them on both sides before I even applied for a card.
And did that help you get a quick approval?
Yeah, I was very happy with the approval. It was instantaneous. They approved me for 27K, which I was really happy about.
Nice.
And the I went in person for it. You don't have to, but I like to go in person when I can. I have a gentleman at Chase who I'm starting to build a friendship with. But he said, I've never seen someone your age get approved for this high of a limit.
Nice. Now, why do you think that was that you got approved for that limit? Why is that?
So there's several things. One thing that's very underrated or slept on or people don't talk about is having high limit credit cards. Like everybody knows to pay your bills on time. Pretty much everybody knows to keep your utilization low, which we can get into and clarify. But having high limit credit cards is the name of the game because they look at comparable credit. Whenever a bank makes a lending decision, they don't look at your credit score. Your credit score does not matter. They look at your credit report. They see who have you borrowed from before. What was your history on paying them back? Are you over leveraging yourself? Do you make 50,000 per year and you have 50,000 in credit card debt? Like they're not going to want to lend you stuff if you're already being not responsible with the things that you have. So one of the easiest ways to get high limit credit cards is working with credit unions. Me personally, I like Navy Federal. It's one of the best credit unions. It's the largest credit union in the world. And at the time, so comparable credit, let me back up a little bit. So they look at what credit limits you already have, and most of the time they approve you for something comparable. So working with Navy Federal, because credit unions are nonprofits, their profits go back into giving the members better rates, better products, things of that nature. So credit unions want to work with you. They want to earn your business more than a regular bank. Um, and so Navy Federal Credit Union, they approved me for this card at a $25,000 limit. All I had before that was a $500 Capital One credit card. So I didn't have good comparable credit, but I built my relationship with them. They were able to help me get that high limit. A few months later, I got it increased to 33,000.
So you
And
went from
so,
5 to 33?
so the whenever I applied for this credit card with Navy Federal, the only other credit card I had was with Capital One that had a $500 limit.
Right.
They approved me for 25K.
Oh, 25K.
Yeah, they approved me for
Crazy.
25K. 91 days later, I requested a credit limit increase. They bumped it up to 33K. So I
That's
had
tight.
that on my credit profile before I applied with Chase. And that's one of the reasons that I think they got such a high limit.
Now, you did this before you got the Amex relationship as well? This at this point you had just one Capital One credit card only.
Correct.
Okay, so what did you do with Navy Federal to get that relationship to the point where you get approved for the 25,000 right off the bat?
Mhm. Great question. And before I go there, I want to talk about who can get into Navy Federal because you can't just go and sign up an account. In order to qualify for the membership, you have to either be in the military yourself, active duty, retired military, or have someone in your family that was retired or active duty. So it could be your parents, it could be your siblings, it could be your grandparents, it could also be a spouse, or it could be someone that you live with. Um, or if one of those people that I just mentioned already has a Navy Federal bank account. So, for example, my girlfriend, she does not have anybody in her family that um, is with Navy Federal or was in the military. But because we live together and I'm a member, she could get an account if she wanted to because we live at the same address. So
Nice.
there's ways to get around it. Me personally, my grandpa was in the military, so that's how I was able to get in. He had already passed away at the time that I opened my account, but they were still able to let me in. So that's the first thing. Um, as far as what I did, several things to build a relationship. One, checking and savings account. That's a given. I was having my direct deposits hit from there. They like to see deposit payment history. Um, and then I got what's called a secured loan from them or a pledge loan. So the secured loan, do you I'm gonna quiz you. I'm gonna spin it on you. Do you know the difference between secured and unsecured?
Secured is when you put a amount of money in up front, and that amount of money is your limit of what you can use.
Yeah,
Unsecured is when they give you the limit of credit,
exactly.
right?
Now, for sure. I just wanted a little pop quiz. I know you said
Thank you. I love
you've
it.
been
We got to stay sharp
educated in
around
credit.
here. This podcast is about keeping everybody on point. So thank you for keeping us on point. Got to make
For
sure it's an
sure.
educational and inspirational podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, as far as to build a relationship with them, I did a secured loan. So Navy Federals has one of the most unique programs on this because I gave them 500 bucks. They locked it in the safe, hypothetically. They gave me a loan for 500 bucks over a 12-month term that I had to make monthly payments on. So basically, I gave them money and they gave me the money right back. It's in my checking account. I paid $450 of that loan back. And what's cool about Navy Federal is they do two things that a lot of other banks don't do. They push out your payment date farther. So I paid back 90% of the loan. They pushed out my payment date for 11 months. And they also gave me the amount back that I paid. So I gave them 500, they gave me 500. I paid them 450, they gave me 450 back. So now they're only holding on to $50. I have a $500 secured loan on my credit report that's 90% paid off, and I don't have to make a payment until 11 months from then. So automatic on-time payment history, and you're able to manufacture a limit of a secured loan on your credit report. So at the time, 500 is all I had. The more, the better. You know, I had clients that have put 10K in there, and it looks a lot better on their report because it's building comparable credit. You know, they have a $10,000 loan on their credit report that's 90% paid off. That looks fantastic. So basically, I got two of those. I waited 6 months and then I applied for the card and they instantly approved me for 25K. I applied on the app. I did not go in branch for that one.
Why wait 6 months?
Banks work in 90-day cycles, banks and credit unions. So you want to give them time to show that you're responsible, but also just let the accounts age. I wanted to show, obviously, it's automatic on-time payment history. So it's not like I had to prove anything, but just having more on-time payments on my credit and having more direct deposit history, all that stuff helped. I probably could have done 3 months, but I was playing it safe. This approval was really important to me to really start and keep moving on my credit journey. So yeah, I just wanted to let it age and build the relationship more.
That's awesome. Okay. So what happens next? You have a relationship with Navy Federal, which Rhino told us how you can apply or, be eligible for one of those. I don't know. Do you have to apply or do you just say, hey, my mom or dad is in the military? I'm
Yeah,
in.
you just have to
It-
call
yeah. So
and
if
do
you're
it.
eligible, you can get in with Navy Federal if you have one of those eligibility criteria.
Correct. And if you're not eligible, then you can try and work it around. Like one of my clients, he wasn't eligible because none of his family was in the military, but he lives with his wife, and his wife's stepdad was in the military. So he had his wife open up an account, and now they're at the same address. Now he can open up an account.
Wow. That's
So you
smart.
can string it through the grapevine to get to you. You're just gonna have to put in some work. I highly recommend it because they're the biggest credit union in the world. They have a ton of great benefits. Of course, they have credit cards, mortgages, auto loans. They have home improvement loans. They have motorcycle loans, boat loans, home and equity line of credit. There's one of my favorite things is the cash advance. So you can pull, it's around 30% of your credit limit directly in cash. So since this is a 33K limit, I can pull 9,900 bucks from my credit card and put it directly into my checking account cash if
Hmm.
I ever needed it. It does come with a higher interest rate. 16.9% instead of 14.9%. But it is
Mhm.
cool to have that availability, that I can basically have 10K in cash anytime that I want, if I needed it.
That's awesome. And that's also something people could potentially use to maybe get a property or get earnest money or down payment on something, depending on your credit limit, of course. But that ability to do that cash advance or that cash transfer, what do you call it? Is it a cash advance?
It's a cash advance. I I wouldn't necessarily recommend it for that just because it has a
Yeah.
higher interest rate. There are other ways to pull the money off of the credit card where you don't have to pay as much.
Okay.
I guess that interest rate, it just depends on how quickly you're going to pay it back, on
Key
if it
point.
would be worth it for you on
Only
your
run that
situation.
play if you have a way to get the money back in before you got to pay that back. Okay. So what's next then? You started with a Capital One. Then you moved on to the Navy Federal, started a great relationship with them. You
Hmm.
did a personal and a business checking with them first.
Yeah, I did also have a business checking with Navy Federal.
Okay, so you did a personal and
Yeah.
business checking with Navy Federal. You let that go 6 months with just holding some money in there with them, right?
Hmm.
And then apply for the credit. Already had a
Oh, let me
relationship.
let, me- let me talk a little bit about what I did before that. So there's a lot
Okay.
of these credit builder apps like Kickoff, Self, um, Rent Reporters. There's a ton of them. I signed up for like five or six of them because I thought that's what building credit was. I thought, cool, I'll pay them 20 bucks a month, 30 bucks a month, whatever, and they'll report something on my credit, whether it's a loan or something of that nature. That's not the best way to build your credit. I would say you can do it as a crutch. For me, it was a crutch. But once I had a couple secured loans, once I had the Navy Federal credit card, I didn't need to lean on those crutches anymore. I don't recommend those. I think the best thing for almost anybody to do to start building their credit is to get that secured loan with Navy Federal. If they can't get into Navy, they could use something like Penn Federal Credit Union, also has the same feature as far as secured loans go. But what's crazy is I actually had to remove those from my credit report. Even though they were positive, there was no late payments, there was nothing wrong with them necessarily, but they were dropping my credit age. So your credit age makes up 15% of your credit score, and it's calculated by the average age of your accounts. So it's the age of each of your accounts added together, divided by the number of accounts that you had. So I had like four accounts that had been open for 8 months ish, and they were holding back my credit age. My credit age was 3 months, which is terrible. Banks like to see 2 years plus. So I used credit repair, which is something I specialize in. I can help people remove, late payments, collections, charge-offs, bankruptcies, repossessions, evictions, pretty much anything on their credit report. I myself, because I knew I had a strategy behind it, I removed positive open accounts from my credit report in order to improve my credit age. Then I also got added on as an authorized user. So my credit age was like 8 months after I removed those, but I'm still trying to increase it, right? So I called up my mom. I said, hey, what's an old credit card that you could add me on? She added me on one that's been open since 2018, a Discover credit card. Now, what's cool about authorized users, that's the only way to artificially increase your age, if that makes sense, because it just ages the accounts are open. That's why people say you don't want to close out an old credit card because it would hurt your credit age. Sometimes people say, "Oh, I paid off my car loan, my score went down." Like credit's a scam. That's because the age that you were building on that loan, once it's paid off, you lose all the age. Um, so anyway, I had my mom add me on as an authorized user. So now her payment history from 2018 until now shows on my credit report. Her account that's been open since 2018 shows on my credit report. Those are a few other things that I did to help just clean up my report and boost my score.
I like that. I like the authorized user play. I've done that as well. And it definitely can create an instant boost in a lot of different areas, especially if you're working with somebody that has great credit. Only use an authorized user if this person has solid credit. And as Rhino mentioned, a credit history that will actually help you. Do the research first. Talk to somebody like Rhino, talk to financial specialists, do some more research, make sure you're making the right play because there's also been stories I've heard of people who have an authorized user and that taking their credit down if that person does something irresponsible. So the best thing to do is have responsible credit for yourself, responsible financial habits and spending habits and credit history for yourself. But I do like that you mentioned if you need to build some artificial history, consider that authorized user with a responsible credit borrower. So that's a good
Yeah,
point.
and I always recommend people talk to friends and family first. If they're not able to, then I can help people get a trade line on their report. It does cost money, and it only stays for a few months, and then it's off. So if someone's credit's ready, the last thing they need is age in order to get approved. Then you would add the trade line on. It'll be on for a few months so you can get approved for what you need to get approved for, and then it'll fall off. But if
Okay.
you can find someone who's going to leave you on there, like my mom's going to leave me on, I don't have to pay her. It's not like a few month thing. Um, and it's free. So I always recommend that first. But if you need to, you can pay for an authorized user. And as well for some of people watching this that have had credit cards for a long time with perfect payment history, that you keep the utilization low, you can rent out your authorized users and make some money with that.
Hmm.
Um, and
Do
for
you teach
example,
that? Do you teach that in your program? How to do that?
yeah, absolutely. The first step is just getting the credit card going and keeping it open and treating it right. So if someone comes to me with no credit already, okay, well, the first step is, starting to build your credit up. But yeah, absolutely. Because not only do I help people with credit, but I also help people start up their own credit repair and consulting company. And there's so many different ways that you can make money with credit. I mentioned credit repair. We just mentioned authorized users. I also make money with credit consulting, just working one-on-one with someone. Um, can make money helping someone get business funding with on the business credit side. There's so many different ways around credit that you can make money. And so it is a great tool because what I've found is in order to be a mentor to someone, you don't have to know everything. You have to know about 10% more than what they do. So the more that you work on your craft, the more that you invest into yourself, the more that you invest into education, put the hours in, the better you're going to be able to help somebody else. And, at the end of the day, people can fix their own credit. They can apply for credit cards on their own. They can do everything by themselves, or they can pay for convenience. Just like you can do your taxes by yourself. You can also put on a new roof by yourself. You can change your oil by yourself. But a lot of people prefer to pay for the convenience of a specialist to do it the right way the first time, because the only thing we can't get back is time. And you're able to shorten that curve. And that's one reason why I really believe in mentorship and invest into mentorship.
I love that. So we talked about kind of getting to the point where you have a solid limit, a solid credit limit. Now let's talk about the next step, which is getting approved for something like an American Express or higher profile credit cards. Why are they higher profile and how can somebody get relationship with a business like American Express, which is viewed as more prestigious than maybe a Capital One card, right? It's
Yeah.
easier to get a Capital One card than an American Express relationship. Could you just talk about kind of how we tier up, from Capital One, Navy Federal, moving on up to American Express cards, and then how can entrepreneurs really take advantage of some of these medium and top tier credit cards and prepare themselves to take advantage of being in a very strong position, both business and personal credit?
Yeah, it's a great question. And you said it perfectly, tiered. Banks are in tiered. So yeah, like Capital One, I would say is like a tier three bank. Credit unions are tier three, even though Navy Federal is amazing. Tier two is a little bit better. That might be like your US banks, like more regional banks. I know US is national, but I'm trying to think like a Citizens. There's like a First National Bank of Omaha. That's more in the Midwest where I'm from.
Hmm.
But I highly recommend working with tier one banks, which are your big dogs. It's your American Express, your Chase, your Bank of America. Those are the highest tier banks, and it really goes off of how much assets they have under management. We can get into how banks make money on a different conversation. That's a whole loophole. But you
Okay.
can Google largest banks in the world. Chase is number one. They have over $1 trillion under assets. And one reason that you want to work with big banks is because they have the most leverage. You're not going to wake up tomorrow and JP Morgan Chase is going to be out of business. There's some banks that fail. You may have heard about, Silicon Valley Bank failing like a year or two ago. And the bigger banks, you don't have to worry about that. They also have a lot more rewards. So with my Chase, um, I get rewards points for everything that I spend. I actually just put some little stickers on mine to help me remind myself of what the rewards are. But that's one reason they also give higher limits and because they have more money to lend, more money to give out. So as far as how to do it, build a relationship, number one, because you can do that no matter what your credit's at. Step two is removing any negative items from your credit, any late payments, derogatories. These big banks will not accept you if you have late payments, collections, things on your report. Um, Three is building more comparable credit, like I had talked about, but your personal credit's the foundation. So if you don't have good personal credit, they're not going to approve you for business credit. There's a lot of misconceptions. People think you have to have a business that's been open for 2 years. People think you have to be making 500,000 plus per year in order to get business credit. It's just not true. If you have an LLC that's set up the right way, it's been open for at least 30 days, and your personal credit is right, you can go get a business credit card. And people can leverage that to invest into their business. I just got this Chase Business Inc. credit card. It's 0% interest for the first 12 months. So I can just make the minimum payments on it. I don't have to worry about paying the full thing. Minimum payments are about 1 to 6% of the total balance. So another thing about business credit is the limits are higher and they don't report to your personal credit report. So I could max that credit card out and it's not going to affect my personal credit. So that's like kind of some of the benefits. But as far as how to start doing it, if your personal credit is right, you can go apply for a business credit card. Now, it depends what your goals are. People ask me, what's the best credit card to get? Well, it depends what your goals are. Are you trying to get 0% interest? Then the Chase Business Inc. Unlimited could be a good one for you. US Bank has one that's 0% interest for 12 months, the US Bank Platinum Card. Pretty much every bank has 0%. American Express has 0% interest as well on an intro period. So that could be your goal. Maybe your goal is just to get the max amount of rewards points. Then, some different Chase cards, some different American Express cards could be for you. But in general, whenever you apply for a card on the business side, you're still going to get a hard inquiry on your personal credit because you're personally guaranteeing it. It's the same thing as like co-signing for someone who has bad credit, like how you co-sign for a vehicle. Your business is its own entity. They trust Ryan, so they're going to trust Rhino's resolutions, my business. I'm co-signing for it. I'm saying if the business can't pay this, then I'm personally responsible for it. So you are going to get a hard inquiry on your personal credit. And if you just go apply for a bunch of credit cards with no strategy, not knowing what inquiry it's going to fall on, not knowing what their underwriting specifics are, then you can just get a bunch of hard inquiries for no reason that are going to hold back your credit. So really have a strategy, have a plan. Like I said, you can do it on your own. You can do the research, or you can pay a specialist to maximize the amount of funding you get and minimize the amount of impact on your credit. And that's really where, I specialize in and my team specializes in is helping people maximize the amount of funding that they can get so they can go do what they need to do with it. And, ultimately the talking about abundance, credit is like the energy of abundance. You're able to use the bank's money to invest into something. The intention is to get a return on investment that you can pay the credit cards back with. And now you just created a cash flowing asset without having to reach into your own pocket.
Right. That's brilliant. So the abundance mentality. Let's talk about that for a second because you've told us a lot about the things that you've been through that have helped you develop your mindset, mentorship, proximity to successful people. What does abundance mean to you?
Abundance just means limitless. There's this quote that says, "What would your goals be if you knew that you couldn't fail?" And to me, that's the energy of abundance. It's nothing is off limits and the world is yours. It's full of opportunity and really whatever you put your mind to, you can achieve.
Absolutely. I agree with that wholeheartedly. And that's a similar place that I'm coming from is when I say the word abundance, I want people to feel all the positivity that they could possibly feel in that moment. When I say abundance alert, it's an expression of extreme joy and positivity, an exclamation of gratitude for the moment and acknowledgement of the fact that, as you said, we are unlimited. We are filled and full of opportunities, and the potential for each and every one of us is abundantly unlimited. It's untapped. I think that we're only using a small percentage of our capabilities and possibilities as humans. And I do believe everybody's a superstar. So that is where I'm coming from with abundance, very much aligned with what you're saying. And I appreciate that definition and explanation. So I want to get ready to land the plane here, Ryan. Is there anything else that you want to share with folks? One thing I do want you to mention before that is just to tell people how they can get involved with you and your team if they're interested in getting maybe a consultation or just understanding where is my credit? What do I need to do? What is the best strategy for me to get my goals? How can people get in touch with your team and your agency to just get some guidance there?
For sure. I would say the best way is to reach out on Instagram at Rhino Reels.
Okay.
And as far as more clearly what I can help with, because I covered a lot of different things, whatever your goals are with credit, I can help you from where you are to where you want to go. And I'll hop on a call with you for free. I don't like charge anything just to talk to me. We'll come up with a plan. I'll show you how I can help you get there. And then if it makes sense to work together, awesome. If not, no worries. Hope you appreciate the free game. Um, and then I also help people, start up their own credit business where it's their company and I mentor them and I service their clients for them. So it's fully on automation. Um, and that's kind of, how people can reach out to me, what I can help them with. But in general, my mission is just to help more people understand credit and to really change their lives because having someone change their position is way more impactful than any money than I could make from the transaction. Like I have a friend in high school, uh, he's in the military. Him and his wife have two kids. They wanted to get a home to raise their family in, but their credit wasn't good. I was able to fix their credit and now they're able to go get that home. Like that means a lot to me. Those are the type of transitions that I'm able to help people make. And that's really what I'm in it for, is to see a change in people's lives, not too much about the money.
That's brilliant. We uplift the world. I appreciate
Yeah,
that energy for sure. Well, make sure you're following Rhino Reels. I'm going to definitely put his information in the description so that everyone can follow Ryan and get educated and informed. He's got a lot of wisdom and knowledge and information to share that can help all of you with business and personal credit. personal is more important than business. But I've loved learning about the different ways we can leverage business credit as well and how that is separate from our personal credit, but it all comes back to the person, to you. So start there, work on educating yourself as much as possible on how you can improve your credit, because unless you have an 850 right now, there's always more you can learn and there's always more you can do. And if you want to expedite your success, get a mentor, work with Rhino Resolutions. Let's get it. Well, Ryan, I'm very grateful. So I want to now move on to just getting some final words that you want to share with people. If it's a call to action, if it's inspirational, if it's anything that you think can benefit the people, what do you want to leave folks with and make sure that they remember on this episode of the Abundance Universe podcast?
If you take one thing away from this episode, I want you to hear my phrase of the year, my motto for the year, which is obsession with progression. Nobody started, everybody started from the same place and nobody got where they're at overnight. It was days, weeks, months, years of continually going after it, learning more, having an abundance mindset, and seeking out information. Nobody's going to do the work for you. Nobody's going to help put you in position. You have to seek that out, take action on the information that you're taking in. And over time, that's going to compound into a huge snowball that's just going to change your life. So just be obsessed with progression and you're going to be all right.
Obsession, progression, progression, obsession. Man, there's a term that I like to say, and a mentor of mine, I heard this from a mentor of mine. I think there's a book with this title as well, but it's the term magnificent obsession. Those who have a magnificent obsession usually end up getting a lot of fulfillment and success from that obsession. Um, Depending. But when you have a magnificent obsession that also aligns with uplifting the world, it's going to be guaranteed for success. It's going to have the favor of the universe upon it, and it's going to be abundant. Well, I'm grateful that you created a company, Ryan, that allows you to empower other people and transform lives, not just be something that's transactional, because I 100% agree with you that the value people get from the knowledge that you share with them is thousands of times more, exponentially more valuable to them, their family, and their legacy than the price that they would pay for your services when you're thinking long term and abundantly. So I'm grateful that you've created a vehicle that allows you to create that much impact, with your knowledge and your experience. It's really an incredible blessing, and very grateful for you, man, and what you do. So thank you for coming here and sharing with us today. Thank you for being who you are, doing what you do. And thank you for being abundant, man. I'm grateful for you.
Yeah, I appreciate the invite. It's been a great time. Look forward to, continuing our friendship and brotherhood throughout the years and hope
Absolutely.
that somebody took some sort of value away from this episode.
Oh, it's abundant value. They're taking it all. I hope everybody was taking notes too. And let's put it into action. Now that you got the information, we got the inspiration, let's take action. Let's work on improving your credit. Let's get some relationships with these credit unions. Let's get relationships with some of these bigger banks, Chase, Bank of America, American Express, and let's keep growing. All right. This has been Abundance Universe. Ryan Mitchell, Bijan Machen. We uplift the world. We'll see you next time. Peace and blessings abundantly.